All right. Let's go ahead and admit everybody.
Bum, bum,
Oh, geez.
dun, dun.
When
That
you're
your
in
favorite
gallery
noise?
view and all the windows just keep
I always do side by side now because one of my professors, or because graphics, he always talks about the whiteboard and then he has his code showing up.
Yeah, but normally when he's on the whiteboard, like you can switch over.
You don't need to see the code. Yeah.
Gage
I
just
just
screaming
like
in the chat. I like it. That's cool. Good way to introduce us here. OS.
Yeah, that's
That's
OS
just how it
and
be.
Capstone. Absolutely mind-boggling.
Dude, print
Yeah.
statements help until you get to Sim4. And then your program will seg fault mid-run. And
then it prints right after.
Yep.
Hey, did anybody finish Sims 4
Understand.
completely and fully?
No,
No.
I didn't.
I
got
Close.
could have.
Like I was in the debugging.
Oh, yeah.
I had it included there and I was debugging. I never got it working. I'm waiting to meet somebody that has. I've only heard rumors.
Me and
Stephen
Champ
White.
probably would have.
Stephen White's the only person that I know that's finished Sim4.
Yeah, Stephen White.
But then again, it's
also-
also Stephen White.
He also probably started it the day it was assigned,
That's true.
if not before that.
Yeah, that's what Steven said. Steven said he was working on it from when Sim4 was like opened up till like the last day. He said he sat in the
Granted-
research lab doing
Yeah,
it.
granted, COVID and how terrible last semester was didn't help either. I'm sure all of us would have gotten farther.
Yeah, anyone else to tell a little bit by the way Michael does announcements? And a bad.
Speaking of Michael, I did get that email about the new thing to grade, I think.
Oh great. Yay! We got a great recursive backtrack. Yay!
You're in 249 right now. Ugh. I feel bad for you. I'm such a mean grader now. I'm just salty that I have to grade for 249, I guess.
We go into the... Oh, boy.
Okay, let's get started here. So welcome to ACM this week. This is going to be hopefully a shorter meeting this week. We just are going to talk about resumes and LinkedIn real quick. We don't have a whole lot of other stuff to discuss just because State Farm's coming next week and we're getting ready for that. We want to make sure that everyone's got resumes for career fairs and stuff coming up. So some things that I want to show off. Champ, I think, linked this somewhere, or maybe not. I saw it somewhere. State Farm coding competition. So, Champ, do you work with a partner on that? And then you can win $800, right?
If you get top 4.
If you get top 4. Hey.
Basically, if you get invited to the finals.
But still,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's more information there. I think that's linked somewhere. If it's not, I'll link it somewhere and be helpful. But yeah, the other thing, coming up in October, there's a career fair, a virtual career fair. So get ready for that. And I think there's maybe one this week or one next week, something up like that coming up. So, be ready for those and, join those. Those are great ways to get involved. Applications for summer internships are beginning to close. Like I think Google's closed yesterday or the day before. So if you're waiting on those, get your butt into gear this weekend, I guess, because they're going to be closed soon. And I know State Farm's closes soon. I know Microsoft closes soon. Yeah, the time to apply for those is now, and not next semester. I know it seems strange, but
More like yesterday.
well, yeah, more like yesterday if you can, but exactly. They hire, like 8 months in advance for internships, which is kind of wild to think about, but that's what they do. So a couple other things I want to show. Handshake. This is my Handshake, which I almost have never used. Hey, I got my picture up there. That's kind of cool. But you can search up internships here. And this is kind of a good way to find internships like, oh, hey, summer 2021. Maybe I want to do that. Some of these have pretty far deadlines, but see, like deadline October 2nd. So that's coming up pretty quick for Upkey. Yeah, I don't even know what that is, but IBM, there's a whole bazillion of them internships here. This is NAU Handshake. So if you're on the career development website, Handshake's right there. And then you can just log in right through there. or just Google Handshake. You have to create a little account and stuff and upload your resume and all that cool stuff, which hopefully after today you'll have a resume if you don't already. Yeah, so talking about resumes and stuff like that, NAU Career Development, these guys are awesome. I know a lot of people that work down there, and I know one of the guys that runs it and everything. Super cool. They're like super useful resource for you as a student. They will help you. Oh, Louis just tried to talk to me. I see. They will help you try and get like, resume built, LinkedIn, networking, what to do, all this stuff like that. And you already pay for it, so you should just do it because those are free resume review, like right there. Receive feedback within 3 to 5 business days. Perfect. They'll even like just submit it and they'll write back to you. Yeah, so they're better than any information that we can give you tonight, but we're going to try our best to give you what we have and show you what we do for our resumes and LinkedIn's and stuff. But if you really want that in-depth review, these are great people to contact and reach out to. You can schedule an appointment on their website. Yeah, so jumping into things, and if anyone has any questions along the way, feel free to throw them out in the chat or unmute or whatever. But first things first, this is my LinkedIn profile. I would definitely encourage you all to create LinkedIn's, even if you don't have a whole lot to talk about or are like me and just kind of lazy and use it for networking and that's about it. On here I list all my experiences and stuff like that, the things that I do, very similar to my resume, which you'll see in a second. And then recently LinkedIn has kind of added this, like you can take a skill quiz. So you could take like a JavaScript skill quiz to see like, affirm that you actually know Java. And I think recruiters actually look at that stuff to make sure that you are aware. And they're pretty decent quizzes as well. Yeah, and then on here, like you can go networking and this like here, yeah. Richard Sampson, that's Drew right there. So you can search people up and then, well, I can't network it with him because I'm already connected with him. Probably a lot of you are also in here because we're viewing each other. But yeah, connect with each other. Throw your LinkedIn, if you create one, into that networking channel. It's a really great opportunity to kind of get like a bazillion connections. Like I know like 23 out of 34 of Drew's connections are mutual connections with me, which is pretty big, So I have, I think, only 85 total, but there's a bazillion people on here. If you just, scroll through, like there's Joseph Remy. He was an officer previously. And, if you know someone, kind of just, connect with them and see what they have going on. And this is a really great way, like if you're applying for a job internship at Google or State Farm, maybe you know somebody at State Farm. Maybe I know Champ works at State Farm and I'm applying for that internship. I can message him on LinkedIn or, whatever and say, hey, I noticed you work at State Farm. Can you give me a recommendation for, the internship coming up? And that's a great way to get your foot kind of in the door at these companies without having to do a whole lot of like, extra legwork or whatever. Yeah, because I'm sure if, Champ's boss knew, oh, Champ recommends this person, yeah, he sticks out from the other 1,000 applications we received. Yeah, so now let's talk a little bit about resumes, which I think is the big topic that we have tonight. So I'm going to show you my resume, and we can kind of pick it apart here and talk about what's good and what's bad, because there are some things that I do that aren't perfect. And that's the other thing that we were talking about in our little officer meeting beforehand. There is no such thing as a perfect resume. So everyone's is a work in progress. It's, constantly updating and changing based on what you do. And especially if you're a freshman or a sophomore and don't have a whole lot of experience yet, don't feel bad. Like, oh my gosh, Tyler's got 85 more things than I do. Well, first off, I do a lot more things than a lot of people. And second off, like, you'll get there. Don't feel bad. So at the top, of course, you want to have your name. I have my address, my mailing address for people to send stuff to, phone number in case they need to call me or whatever, and then my professional email. Don't use, whatever your, I don't know, whatever, like xxsniperxx420@gmail.com that you used back in when you were 12. Create a real professional email. don't use that weirdo one. No recruiter wants to email you at xx, sniperman xx or whatever. And then I link my LinkedIn on mine as well. I think that's a good option. Also, your GitHub, you should link that on there if you have a lot going on there. I have almost nothing going on GitHub, so I don't link that. And then, so this was, Super Saiyan Carter at gmail.com. Minecraft X Fortnite Pro. Yeah, exactly. Don't put those in there. Those are bad emails to have.
You have a professional one already. It's NAUs if you don't have anything else.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a first.last through NAU, so I use that because I think that's easier to type out than some random characters and numbers. But your NAU email is a great one to use. But also just create a nice Gmail, because that way something that you'll be able to use from this point forward. These are great emails. Definitely not. Okay. Anyway, and then the other thing that I do first, right off the bat, I talk about my skills. And the big thing for CS people is programming languages known. So this is like, keep in mind that Hotmail is here. This is like, your Java, C, whatever weirdo programming languages like I know R and MATLAB, all that kind of stuff. And you can add to this list and package them together in different ways and stuff like that, however you see fit. There's a great meme I've seen, MATLAB gross, it is gross, that I've seen years ago, and it was this guy's resume, and he had so many like computer science languages, he just interspersed Pokemon in between them, and like they kind of sound like gibberish, but to the right person, this does mean something that I know Python, 3 or whatever. Like people like, oh, okay, you know what you're doing. Yeah, and then I also talk about my leadership skills and stuff like that. And then jumping down, my next section is experience, and to me, this is the most like the bulk of my resume, and it's long, I know. So I have everything that I've basically ever done in a professional setting. Here. So this is like all of my current jobs. So I have, November to present, I do all these things. Hey, look, that's what we're doing right now. Yeah. And then like things that I've done in the past. So this is a great way. And then I do like 1 or 2 to 3 bullet points. Ooh, sensei. Thank you, Jacob. Yes. I was a karate instructor, sensei. Yeah. And then I also do some bullet points about what I did there. Like, so like if I worked, on a project, or if I built something, or if I worked with people. I'm also that's right. Yeah. Someone found my Tinder profile recently, so that was fun. Just post that one in meme sharing for us, champ. Why don't you? Yeah, so I've got all of like the things that I did there, that was really that are really impactful, and I try and summarize what my experience was. Yeah, the other thing that we were kind of talking about before this, and this is really, a personal preference kind of thing, and it depends on who you talk to. So for me, like a lot of these things that I did in high school, like being a student senator, I don't think the job interviewers that I'm talking to now care about what I did in high school. Like they care about the stuff that's up here at the top, the more recent, more like big stuff. So I'll actually remove some of these items, like especially things that don't apply for a technical job, I'll remove, or things that like if I'm interviewing for like a more personable job, maybe I'll leave those in and remove some of the technical things. But that's also up to you. There's if you have the opportunity to do a cover letter, maybe that can be your more individualized area, and you can just leave this all together. It really depends on the application that you're going for. And then my next section on my resume is education. And so I'm planning to go for a master's degree, hopefully from NAU, but we'll see if they accept me even. Who knows? They probably will. I'm sure they will. But yeah, so I have that listed on here, and that's just for summer internships, just because a lot of them want to see that I'm still going to be a student next year and not just like graduating and still applying for internships. Yeah, and then I have NAU, obviously, my major, computer science, some minors that I have. That's right, history minor. I can tell you all about the different history of all kinds of things. And then I have some notable classes that I've taken. So obviously data structures, I did undergraduate research. And this is there's different ways to do this as well. Some people do bullet points of things that they did that were important. Yeah, so you can put your classes on your resume. Keep in mind something that is really only applicable for like the class number, like CS 249, changes depending on what university you go to. So like if I were applying for a job, like the guy's not going to know what CS 249 is. So make sure you define data structures. Everyone knows what data structures is. Everyone knows what software engineering is. These are big classes, and I think eventually you can just, even remove the numbers and say like, I took data structures. Like it is what it is. They're not going to know what CS 249 is unless they're very familiar with NAU. And then I have my high school. This is another thing that I remove. It's got my AP classes that I took in high school. It's kind of like, it is what it is. I don't know. I don't think recruiters are going to care about that I graduated high school. It's assumed. If you have a college degree, you graduated from high school. Like if you didn't
Skip high school, go directly to college.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're doing something wrong. And then I have some personal awards and accomplishments that I've had. A lot of people also have project tabs. So like if you've worked on a project, built an app or something in your free time that you want to share. Oh God, somebody actually did post it in meme sharing. Oh man. Yeah. The other big thing is dates. So, class of 2021, class of 2023, and the dates that I did stuff. So that's what my resume looks like. Does anyone have any questions about that before because a couple of the officers are going to show their resumes, and then what we're going to do is if you want to show your resume and get feedback, we're more than happy to give you some feedback on that as well. And this is just a template that Google gave me. So it's not really like that, it's not super exorbitant. Like you can find them on Google, just Google resume template, and there's 80 bazillion of them. Yeah, so I'll stop sharing then if I can find the button. Where did the button go? Zoom? Hello? There it is. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. And then I think Champ's going to go ahead and start sharing. Yeah, Champ? He's going to show us his resume.
Let me see. Okay, so I guess I'll start off with actually not my resume. Oh no, not that. Let me start off with, and then let me get the chat here actually. How do you get the chat? Okay. Where did the chat go?
I'll watch it for you, Champ. Don't worry.
Okay.
It disappears when you screen share.
I know, but I tried to pull it up through the screen. Anyways. Okay, so this is my LinkedIn. So basically, I just have a little about anything special besides what I'm interested in and then what I'm looking for. So you can see that I'm interested in these three things, and I want to utilize my skills in an internship or an entry-level position as a software developer. So pretty general. I didn't really put much thought into this besides just like the first thing they see. So I want to see if maybe I could try and intrigue them with keywords here. And that's really it. Had my internship at State Farm. I put bullet points for it. All my experience at NAU. Previous internships, and then like things that I have in education. So, the two things. So my minor, my BSCS, and then my cybersecurity information security specialist certificate. And then this is another thing that you guys should definitely do, especially if you know someone's very skilled at it, is endorse them in that skill. Like you'll notice here, like, oh, I also passed a LinkedIn assessment for it, but like also make sure that like you can talk to your friends and be like, hey, let's trade like endorsements. It's like endorsement bomb each other. And so I've had friends that endorse me in Java. I have 2 people from State Farm that endorse me for teamwork. And this is what they see. So think about a recruiter coming on your page and they're like, yeah, I kind of don't care about your experience. What are you good at? and they see this immediately. Endorsed by two of Champ's colleagues at State Farm, and they're gonna be, oh, I know State Farm. Oh, he must be really good at teamwork then. And that already starts making you like a considerable applicant. Like, oh, maybe we should probably look into this guy. I put a bunch of other skills that I do too. Recommendations. I also have recommendations from people. So like here's a friend of mine that also does undergraduate research at NAU. Here's a friend of mine that's a software developer at General Motors. There's my friend Sam, who's also a software engineer at Metron. So like, make sure like if you know someone and you've worked closely with them, and then ask them if they can write your recommendation. Maybe hype you up a little bit. Oh, that's always good.
And the other thing is, even if right now you don't have a whole lot of skills, maybe you're a freshman or sophomore and like you don't have a whole lot to put, create it now and start making connections. Like, it doesn't hurt to have nothing there, and just start friending people basically on LinkedIn.
Yeah, like if you look at mine, like I have 208 connections. And then if we look at it, like I have friends from high school, obviously some people from State Farm, but like, see, here's like some other people from NAU. Some of them I barely know, you know what I mean? Like I just knew them from a class, and I was like, I'm gonna connect with them. Like this person I TA'd CS 122 with, and I was like, hey, you wanna like connect? And I was like, okay, like I haven't talked to this person since high school, so like just if you know a person, just connect with them. Thank you, Carter. Okay, so let's move on to my resume. So for my resume, I put the skills that I especially want to highlight and notice. So for me, a lot of the jobs that I know I want to apply to is full stack web development, data science or data analyst positions, and your typical just software engineer role, right? So if we look at that, right, what are the top, if you look at every resume, right, or every job application, so what's the, let me find the State Farm one real quick. Let me find it. Was it job opportunities? Let's see here. Okay, let's look at the State Farm one. All right. Easy. And this is exactly what I did too when I made my resume initially for State Farm. Is okay, so I looked and I was like, okay, you're looking for, okay, college student. Okay, yeah, I'm a college student. My major is computer science. Okay, cool. Seeking candidates with experience in object-oriented programming, Java, Python. That's guaranteed on my list. First two things. You see that? Boom. So once they see it's like, okay, this person filled out those two check boxes right away. Now you're going to be like, considered more. And it's like, okay, some web development experience. Oh, this person knows JavaScript, Node.js, REST, React, HTML, CSS, Spring. Oh, okay, this person's checking all the boxes. So if you have all these skills, and they literally tell you who they look for. So why don't you put it on your resume, right? And especially in the order that they want it too. So it's like easy to see, easy to check the boxes. Drive an initiative to lead and affect positive change, leadership. Ability to work in a team environment, both in person and virtual, teamwork, collaboration, enthusiasm, right? And so just by looking at just one section of my resume, the recruiter's probably thinking, oh man, he's already checking all these boxes for what we are looking for, right? So, make sure you really read what they're looking for and see if you can tweak your resume in such a way so that, like you have the best chance at getting that job if that's a job that you're interested in. I have my
question in the chat for you. Yeah. Did you use some sort of markup language to make that resume, Champ?
I wrote it in LaTeX. So a lot of people don't know LaTeX. I think it's really good to learn. Like I do, like if you look at like my previous stuff, like I do like my homework in math using LaTeX and stuff. So like if you look at like my homework documents, they're like pretty, so I can write my documents. Like I can show like my algorithms homeworks. Like I did all my algorithms homeworks in LaTeX too. And it's just really, it just makes everything easier for me. I like LaTeX a lot, and it makes things a lot easier for me because I would fucking hate myself if I had to type this out in like Word or Google Drive. But
Once you know how to use LaTeX, it becomes a lot easier. But the
Mhm.
first step is learning how to use it.
and it's just like any language, right? You kind of just have to dive in head first and just start messing with it. Yeah, and then so for education, I did it slightly different from Tyler's. You'll notice that in Tyler's one, he put relevant courses. I just put which courses that I excelled in and made sure that it was the ones that are known. So, for example, I excelled in data structures, algorithms, and operating systems, which in a lot of universities, those are like the big three classes that a CS major takes that is notoriously difficult, right? I also put like undergraduate research lab to pursue interests not available through classes. So basically for me, what I thought in my resume is the skills section of the resume is where you try to get all those check boxes ticked off on like what they're looking for in an applicant. And then everything else is to show how much of an adaptable learner you are, right? So right here, I specifically said this to pursue interests not available through classes, because I want them to know that there's other interests that I have that's not just school, and here's what I'm doing to make sure that I can pursue those interests.
So question in the chat, Champ, and
Yeah.
maybe I'll answer this for you, Jacob. So he says, I'm a freshman and taking CS 126, and I'm learning Python, but this is my first time learning a programming language. Would I put Python as a technical skill in my resume? Yes, you should put Python as a technical skill on your resume. You will learn more of it. But should you put C as a technical skill on your resume? Probably not, because if any recruiter asks you a question about C and you look at them and go, I don't actually know C, they're going to look at you and go, you put it on your resume. But yeah, Python, you can throw that on your resume, absolutely.
Yep.
Don't put something that you don't know, though. I think
Yep.
that's a big thing. Yeah, don't just lie because that's what they want.
Yeah, like don't say you know React if all you did was a tutorial. Don't say that. They will, because then if they ask you about, oh, do you know how to do state? Do you know how to control the DOM? Do you know how to create components? And you don't know any of that, that's basic React stuff that every person who knows React knows how to use, right? So just make sure that you know,
And
because
especially for something like Python, you'll do more Python and you'll learn more and more as you continue doing CS. Right now, you're not limited by the programming language. You're limited by what you know. You know what I mean? So you'll get more.
Yeah. Another thing that's important and a topic of conversation is, should I put my GPA and should I not? And, a lot of people say, I don't put my GPA because my GPA is like a 3.0 and it's not as good as like what a lot of people say. And my answer to that is just be prepared. If you put your cumulative GPA as a 3.0, 3.8, just that's just done in that. But if you don't put it, just make sure you're prepared to have the conversation where, oh, so I didn't see you put your GPA here. Could you tell me why? And you got to make sure that you don't have an answer besides, well, I thought my GPA was low. You have to come up with a more, something that hypes you up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe your first year you had a lot of difficulty with, your transition to college or something like that, and that was like, being away from home was terrible and it was hard for you, and that's totally fine. But like, be ready to tell that story to the interviewer. And then Jacob asks, what about something like MIPS or assembly that was briefly taught in a CS class for programming languages?
I personally, for me, there a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about what you should put as your skills. But if that skill is not applicable to the job that you're applying to, then why put it? If you're never going to use MIPS or assembly, why are you going to put it, right? Like web development, you know that you're going to use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, some node package, right? Or some front-end framework, back-end framework related to web development. Does the recruiter care that you know assembly? Probably not. But another counter argument could be, well, I don't have enough skills to put. Then in that case, maybe do put it, right? It's all, how you feel it out. And, and asking is like super important. Like, do you think this is something smart to put? And, for me personally, I think I have enough technical skills to not put it, but if your only technical skill is like Python, then maybe you kind of want to like maybe try and fluff it up so that it seems like more, but
Yeah.
make sure, just don't lie. That's just one of the critical things, is don't lie that you know something when you really don't.
My thing is, if you feel comfortable talking technically about that subject, then that's something that you can put. But if they ask you a question like, oh, hey, can you tell me how to move registers in assembly or something like that? And you look at them and go, what's a register? Like that's like that's not going to work out real good for you. Yeah, it depends on your comfort level. Like, for example, I learned Scheme in 396. I struggle to write anything in Scheme. It's like a terrible language in my opinion. So I'm not going to put that on my resume because I don't want to get questions about that. Like, I don't want to have a recruiter ask me, hey, can you write this in Scheme for us? And I'll look at them and go, what?
Yeah, most definitely. Let's see what else I can do. Experience. Another thing that you might notice that's different is I do not put my most recent job at the top, or the job that I'm currently working at the top. I put the most relevant job, or I put the most relevant experience, and that will fit the most to the job at the top. So for me, right, I want to be a full stack web developer, or I want to do, something along with data analysis, something with Java or Python, or, I want to use that. So the experience that gave me, that allowed me to utilize those skills, is going to be put at the top. And for me, that's ET intern at State Farm, right? And then another thing too is what I put as the bullet points. So a lot of people have projects or experiences that they put down that have no impact, right? It doesn't really show how valuable you were as an intern. So you have to make sure that the way you phrase your sentences, don't make it lying, don't lie about it. Just remember that, because if you get asked a question about it, then and you can't answer, then you're screwed. But one of the things is impact. And so for mine, one of the first things that I put is influence critical business and technical solutions that impacted millions of customers, right? So you have to be able to show, okay, did the thing that you do at this experience mean anything? Were you valuable in any way? And if you can somehow word it and show that, then that's like really good for you, right? Because the most thing, this is probably what I would do as a recruiter. And I know from like what people have told me at State Farm, this is what they do when they look at a resume, is they do this. Yeah. Okay, State Farm, here, influence, okay. Java, Spring Boot, okay, REST, okay, cool. Testing, integrations, okay, cool. Anything else that's cool? Teaching assistant, okay, some projects. That's
the other thing is,
how
in recent times, because companies get hundreds of resumes, they have computers sort through resumes to determine, hey, this guy is worth human eyes and this guy is not. So, if you don't have any skills that the job asked for listed on your resume, like, you might just get filtered out by a computer because they'll go, he doesn't have the ability to do what we need him to do anyways. Why would we even bother looking at him?
Yep. That's why I said right at like when we looked at like the State Farm application, that's why I said we want to put those technical skills that they asked for. We have to make sure that's on your resume, because if it's not, say bye-bye to your application, because that's going straight in the trash, right? Yeah. And then and then the other bullet points is just, kind of reinstating, like I've used you using these technical skills in this internship. So like I put Java up here. So I said I utilize Java. I said I use Spring Boot up here. So I say Java with Spring Boot to create a microservice application. Worked with business leadership to determine technical solutions. So collaboration, effective communication, maybe teamwork could be involved in that. Designed and developed the REST API. Well, REST critical thinking, for designing and developing. So you have to make sure that your skills somehow line up with your experience in such a way so that, you know, you're not just listing skills, but you have backup to prove, okay, well, here's why I'm good at Python. Here's why I'm good at Java, you know? So make sure you have that. Here's some other stuff for when I thought I wanted to really go into this industry. So I did a lot of networking stuff. So configuring network switches, setting up policy domains, like sysadmin stuff.
The other
Then
thing
realized I didn't
is
want to do
Champs
that.
is one page, right?
Mhm.
Champ fits everything on one page, which I don't do. So, you know, there's, you know, some disagreement there. Some people encourage you, hey, shorter is better. Other people say, I want to hear about everything. So again, it's very variable.
Mhm. Basically, there is no right answer. What I might be saying might be completely wrong, but you know, if a recruiter ever asks you, why did you only have it as one page? Be sure you're ready to be able to explain it like the way I'm explaining it to you guys. Well, I wanted to show off my skills first so you guys can easily see why, you know, which skills that I'm good at. And I had the one that I'm most comfortable with from the left going on to the right. Doesn't mean I don't know C that well. It's just, you know, not the one that I'm most comfortable with, you know what I mean? And all that stuff. And so just make sure that you're ready for questions when they ask, potential questions. I have projects here. A lot of you might not have time or might not be able to find a project, but you know, that is a question I posted it in a general chat on how you can like oh, where is it? Here. I made this. Oh my god. This right here. So Peter asked, like, you know, how does he get started on projects, and I kind of give him like how I start my personal projects. So this one right here, this one was a 24-hour hack day at State Farm, and then so I used React and Python, and then you know I showed again here showing my leadership skills, led a team of 4 to build a web application, right?
So let's say we want to have projects to add to our resume, but we're not really like sure what we want to do, and we're kind of lacking on the creativity side of it. What would you guys recommend?
Get involved in an open source software project.
Yep. That here is a good link that I will paste in the officer chat because I can't see the chat right now, but I can't find this link anyway. So let me find it. Here it is.
Yeah, no, so like on GitHub, there's bazillions of projects that need capable coders, and like you are capable of coding already. Yeah, here, I'll post this in general for you guys. Yeah, you are capable of coding, and like joining those projects is a great way to like get some experience in something. You know, have a project, and maybe if you're not creative or don't have something for your own, like, hey, just go do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like for me, I didn't have much ideas, right? So this link that I sent you guys, or whoever sent in general, this was the first thing that I found was like when I was searching up, and this is where I came up with like some ideas. It was like, oh, Twitter bot, Reddit bot. Oh, why don't I make a Discord bot? And oh, look, there's a tutorial for Discord bot, but it's in Node.js. Oh well, I get to learn Node.js, and then maybe someday I could port that into Python, learn it and learn how to do it in Python. Another one that I did was, let's see, I did build your own Git. That was pretty fun. I did build your own BitTorrent client. That was fun. You know, there's a lot of resources. You know, if you need help. What I did here is like eventually once, you know, I was confident enough in being able to build whatever I want. I just need the ideas. Sometimes I just come back onto this page and I just look at all the different topics and maybe see like if an idea can come. Because sometimes a lot of people just kind of need it there in front of them to be like, oh, that's an interesting one. Let's twist up what the actual project is, so it's something that I want to do. So yeah, and then so that's one of my projects, and then Discord bot. Yeah, this is a project that I did with a friend. This one I worked on it for like a year, but yeah, a lot of companies too might ask if you do have projects. They might ask for your project repository. So for me, I keep it closed source just because I don't want people ripping it. But you can easily just, you say, oh yeah, sure, I have it on my machine right now. You want to take a look at it? Boom, and then you can run it locally or something like that. For a lot of you guys, one of your projects that you might put on here is your operating system simulator.
Or
That's a
if you're in
really good
249,
project.
your 249 projects.
Yeah, just make sure you don't make it public.
Yes, closed repos, and then if recruiters want those, yeah, that you can give them the link. Like, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
since we're on this subject, I just have like a question about like the licensing and stuff for like GitHub, because I've only posted one thing on GitHub, to be honest. But like how does that like work as far as like legality goes?
MIT
Uh,
license. MIT license.
MIT license. If you don't want people to use your code, there's a website that I need to find. Like,
there's a website that builds licenses for you. Like, you check what boxes you want. Yeah, see, this is exactly it. Yeah. And then what it does is it creates a license for you, so that way you don't have to like worry about this stuff as a programmer.
Yep. This one, like GNU is like, especially like their different ones, they have like very like strict like policies on like what you can use and stuff. But MIT license is like the one that's like the one that you should usually go for if you don't know and you kind of don't care if people use it. Because this one's kind of like whatever, like, it's just like you can use it to make money, you can use it for distribution, private use, modification, and you'll notice that a lot of open source repositories have the MIT license, or else companies wouldn't be able to ever use it, right? Like a company will never ever be able to use React because, like if they don't have the MIT license, then commercial use can't be used. Right.
The MIT license is very, very common. Like, that's like probably, I would say, the most widely used one in general.
Yep. So yeah, so that's like that subject on licensing. But is there any questions on my resume? Cool beans.
Does anyone have questions about their resume or want to share their resume, and maybe you do something different than the way the Champ and I do it, or anything like that? Anyone else have any?
I might show my resume.
Yeah,
That's
let's see
cool.
it, Carter.
For sure. Let me pull it up.
How important are cover letters? While Carter's sharing, let's see. Yeah, everyone should be able to share screen. Yeah, it depends on who you ask. We had a almost, I wouldn't say heated, but a conversation about this before. And, it depends. For Drew, cover letters are like where he sells himself. For Champ, he sells himself in the resume. So it really depends. Like,
yeah,
it's totally variable. All right, let's see Carter's resume.
So I guess so the differences that I do with mine. Well,
I
obviously,
throw that away immediately, I think.
yeah, I'll start from scratch. Yeah. No, I mean, but this probably doesn't need to be here anymore. Like my high school stuff probably doesn't need to be here anymore. And then I switch the order like that I have things, just depending on like what I'm doing, because like I know like skills and abilities, like from what you said, Champ, the way that State Farm does it, like that's something I'd want to be at the top, and then changing like the priorities of my languages to sort of match that. Like that's pretty smart too. So I guess that's like sort of always changing, but I just wanted to show this to like everyone, like just in case, like just to show, I guess, like I just made mine in like Google Docs basically, and like I feel like it's pretty decent. So I just wanted to say like you can do it. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm also open to criticism. Like whatever you guys think might be able to change, like I would definitely be open to that too.
Yeah. I think yours looks really good. I think there's two schools of thought on color. Some people like to have color in theirs because, it kind of makes you stand out a little bit more, but other people say, most resume review people, interview people, just look at black and white copies anyways. So why does it matter to use color? So I don't know. Again, two schools of thought. black and white copies are cheaper too. So that's the other thing.
Yep.
Um,
Like for example, at like State Farm, me, Daniel, and our intern group got a resume workshop from one of the leadership, right? One people from leadership, and there was one of our friends. She goes to Georgia Tech, but her resume was super colorful, very modern. That's like the key. That's something that I want to say compared to your traditional resume that looks like Carter's, and what they said is, sometimes it's kind of nice to look at a resume that's kind of colorful because, it kind of almost makes you, it's like, oh, that's nice. Someone's colorful. But, that would be different if, all the resumes that, a certain company gets is all colorful and yours is the only one that's black and white. So like, whatever is your preference, I believe.
Yeah. So Nicholas has got a question in the chat. How about jobs outside computer science that may show soft skills? Yeah. So I think this is kind of more my roundhouse because I don't actually want to be a software developer. I want to be a project manager for software developers. So I am on my resume trying to exemplify a lot more of these skills of, hey, it's like I can do software stuff, but I also am I have all these leadership skills. I have all these other skills and stuff like that. And especially if you're applying for a job like, like for my job, I'm a Pure Jack's mentor. Like they don't care. Yeah, I had sandwich artists on my resume. Exactly. Like a lot of those entry-level jobs don't care about like, what you have. Like, if I go work at Home Depot, like they're not going to like look at me and go, oh, Python? That makes you better than the other guy. Like they're not like they're like, do you know what a hammer is? That's the question they're gonna ask. I had Sodexo on mine for the coop. Yeah, exactly. So it really does, change with what you do and like stuff like that. So it really depends. I would say, you can on those jobs that you apply for that use soft skills more, you can remove some of those technical skills because they're not going to need to see them as much. But it's still important to show that you have like, hey, I'm pretty well versed in these fields, even though like that's not what this job is about. I'm still a self-starter. I'm still a good learner. I know all these skills and stuff like that. But I know you don't know what Python means. You think that's a snake and not a programming language. Like it's a different world that you're part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to reiterate, just as long as your experience shows off your skills and you actually applying it and you actually doing it, your experience is supposed to show you how valuable you are and you actually showing your valuable skills in practice.
So, I don't have like an internship in software engineering or anything software related right now, but I do have like almost 2 years of experience in IT, and I'm sure some things probably overlap. Should I keep that if I'm applying to something like that, or what's your advice on that?
I'd say especially if you don't have anything, putting something is at least good, right? And if you're going to apply to a software engineering internship, and even for me, right? Like if you look at my IT internship, I didn't really have like software engineering roles on it. I had system administrator roles. I managed user policies. I managed computers, did maintenance on end user devices, organized, monitored, and maintained IT resources, right? Switches, routers. I created Cat6 cables and stuff like that. That's not software engineering at all. But it shows that, I'm trying to do stuff. And, I'm trying to get these skills or apply these skills. And that's the most important thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with what Champ's saying. Yeah, so if you paid attention when I was sharing my resume, I don't have an internship listed on there. I have not done an internship, but I've done a lot of other stuff. Like I've done undergraduate research. I've done, all this web development stuff for the university over the summer. I've done a lot of stuff that's like not internship, but in a different vein. And like I said, I'm not going for that software development position that Champ might be going for. I'm going for the project manager position. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone else have anything else that they want to share?
I know Drew had some 2 cents that he wanted to put in from Dory.
But I think you guys covered a lot of it, and it is kind of getting late. I mean, if people want to, can hear or share kind of just another way of putting it together. And some of my personal experience talking with employers, but I think you guys covered most of it.
Hey, I'm down to hearing a different way, and I'm
Okay.
pretty sure a lot of people
Maybe
are.
real quick, Drew.
Cool.
5 minutes.
So I will show mine really quickly, screen share. Cool. Y'all can see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So this is my current resume. It's fairly similar to Champ's. And that's actually what got critiqued by Dr. Dory earlier today. So I have my technical qualifications at the top, all these things I've been doing. I kind of grouped them together. So Ruby on Rails and C are probably my two biggest programming languages right now. I haven't done JavaScript since 249. My education, my GPA, some advice I got from career services was keep everything on the right-hand side as far as dates go. And then mine's very similar to it kind of Champs. Like I'm trying to talk about what I'm doing. So programming a Ruby on Rails web app used by the National Park Service and Grand Canyon River Associations to track legal compliance along the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon. So that's that real world impact he's talking about. Like this is a web app that is being used by the government and by multiple private organizations to accomplish something. I've seen people, another piece of advice is like try to quantify what you've done. That's really hard. I was looking at resumes the other day on the internet and one person said like solved over 300 plus bugs. Like, sorry, but what the hell does that mean? Like,
Right?
What qualifies as a bug? Were you missing a
Yeah, like-
semicolon? Did you add 300 semicolons?
yes,
I can do that right now.
Yeah.
A semicolon is a bug. And then like I spend 4 hours solving one bug with some segmentation fault in OS. So I think it's kind of hard to quantify I think it can be hard to quantify things with computer science. So talking about the real world impact is good as well. I kind of have some of those keywords, agile development cycle with CI and CD, continuous integration and continuous development, etc. I put a big chunk of my soft skills here, which is my guiding experience that I have with NAU. And one thing is if you look at this versus what this was for, give me just a sec.
I think Drew, while you're looking, Drew, I'll talk for a second.
Yeah,
Drew's a great
actually,
example
fine,
of
because it's
somebody
good.
who has a lot of soft skills. He's got a lot of experience in other fields before, becoming more technical.
But I can kind of describe the way I changed it. So wilderness trips and being a challenge course supervisor, what they're concerned about is like the kinds of elements you led, kind of like the kinds of programming languages, to draw that metaphor into our field. And then how many hours you have, kind of like how many years of experience you have. Nobody really cares that I have experience in mountain biking and climbing and zip lines and know how to set up and operate them. What they do care about are the soft skills that they get out of that. So led groups in remote setting to manage risks, meet guest needs and expectation, and teach them new skills. What are the soft skills there? Well, I know things and I'm supposed to teach other people, and I do so by communicating, problem solving, and working with co-guides. So I've worked in a backcountry setting that is inherently dangerous, like physically dangerous, with people to create a positive experience for others. So I plan and execute challenge course programs to meet pre-established goals that normally include but are not limited to conflict management, teamwork, trust, and improved communication skills. So that kind of implies our process is they say we want to work on these things, and then I design an experience to meet those things. So this part's good. Here's, I guess, the feedback that Dr. Dory gave me. One, he didn't like this at all. Well, it's not that he didn't really like it. He thought it was too vague. And this is something that I kind of got with 50-50 from NAU Career Services, is there's kind of two schools of thought. There's you say, oh, Ruby on Rails, and then like Champ said, you better prove through some line down here the amount of Ruby on Rails experience you have. This is just a web framework that uses the Ruby programming language. It's nothing super fancy, just in case you hadn't heard of it, because you probably know a lot of these other things. For Dr. Dory, he took a look at it and goes, CSS, HTML, JavaScript, that doesn't really tell me a whole lot. I would do something like web development, use CSS, HTML, JavaScript to develop a web app, and have been doing so for 18 months or something like that.
Yep. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so he wants a little bit more at the top, but then you elaborate on it down here, and it's even okay to repeat yourself. But he took a look at this and he goes, like, I don't know if you use CSS for a project, or I don't know if you use CSS for a job and have been doing so for a long time. Because my CSS experience has grown like pretty well, considering the fact there are different CSS pages for different partials we use, and we're using Sass, which is like a nested version of CSS, which is amazing, by the way. Like I don't know how I ever wrote CSS without it. But he wanted a little bit more at the top. If you look up, it's not too common in tech resumes, but he showed me his wife's. It's called a summary of qualifications instead of technical qualifications. It's a very common term at the top of resumes, and it's where you try to show like your big skills right up front. So for me, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to group this together in web development, CSS, HTML, JavaScript, alongside Ruby on Rails to develop a web app. So give them something like that. And then if they want to know more, it's down here. So it doesn't say the full scope, but it says more than CSS. Yeah, I used it one time in class. And then two other things we had a debate about. But beyond that, like I agree with a lot of stuff what Champ said. Academic experience, independent. Here's my independent research, and then here's my business and math stuff. But that kind of gets summarized in minor in mathematics and business. And I actually just had this conversation a few hours ago, so it's pretty fresh. This is a work in progress. But he would say maybe call this projects is probably a little bit more relevant. This is kind of a leftover from when I was applying for a job at Dory's lab. So that's kind of leftover. Then another thing is extracurricular experience down here. Two things are up for debate. One is the length of a resume. I think it depends on the industry. My dad's a doctor, and about 2-3 years ago, he started working at a new place, and he showed me his resume, and the thing was 7 pages, and they loved it. And like the first thing, like when I saw this stapled bundle of resume paper like this thick, I was like, they love that? Because I've been told my whole life, 1 page, 1 page, 1 page. But then I run into some people and they go, it could be 1 page front and back. And then I talked to Dr. Dory, who is a fairly big deal at NAU, and in my opinion, one of the better professors, and really works professionally to get people their jobs. And he said, it's okay to be more than 1 page. Probably no more than 2 for you though. So maybe 1 page front and back. He showed me his wife's, who just got a job at Gore, not as a software engineer or anything in tech, more in management, but hers was several pages as well. And then we started talking about cover letters. And oh, here's another thing. So Champ said you should kind of tailor this for the specific job you want. The advice I got from him was you should have one resume and tailor your cover letter, but the resume should always be the same. Maybe you could do a little of each, but then that got us talking about cover letters. And I promise I'm going somewhere with this, where Champ said, I've read online that you shouldn't submit a cover letter unless you want to, because some places don't give you the option to. And I say, well, when I see that little submit button that you click to submit a resume, I make sure it's in a file that's cover letter resume with a resume filled out for that job. And then we kind of got in this debate about it, and then we got into a debate about length, and it really just depends. Because I've talked to employers, and what really frustrates me, and one of the things that kind of turns me off from networking, is everybody talks about how there's like a right way to do it, and there is a right answer, and that's foolish. There's not. There are multiple different ways, and when you're talking about what way is correct and how you're going to instantly throw something in the trash if it's longer than a page, I look at that and I go, okay, well, maybe that person was a little verbose with their explanation, but they could have had really great skills and you just missed that opportunity. Or maybe somebody else would have said, oh, all these others are pages and there are a couple that are 2 or 3 pages. Maybe they have more experience. It depends on the person that's going through them. And it just depends. And that's the overall point of everything I'm saying. Like, I've gotten different advice from my high school mentor to somebody I talked to during my gap year, to multiple different bosses, to people at career fairs, to Dr. Dory, my current boss, to Champ, who got direct input from people at State Farm, which is a very big deal, and they all conflict. So what do? You do your best. There are some general guidelines. You have something that looks along these lines. You definitely need to be specific about what you've done and quantify things. That's what the numbers are on the right. Color versus black and white, page length. Yeah, I'd say a page is pretty good. And I would say you better have a darn good reason for going on a second page. Cover letter, I'm going to opt to do cover letters. I think they're more professional. But you know, if some of my stuff from the cover letter is just being copy pasted into the interview questions they asked me, like, I don't see how that's a good thing or bad thing. It just is. It's like they asked me a bunch of questions. I covered it there. If they're not interested in the cover letter, then they can just scroll down and read my resume. I don't know. Like, so much of this is in other people's hands. So you just do your best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just
I think
the
the big
main-
answer is it depends, you know, and it really does.
Mhm.
Thank you everyone for sharing. And I think the other thing is, if you guys ever have questions, always feel free to throw them in general or whatever. And I think, you know, we're always more than happy to answer questions about resumes, LinkedIn's, whatever you have, you know, anything like that. Yeah. Anything else before we wrap up here?
Yep. Just main point is just make sure that somehow on your resume, no matter how you format it, whether it's you format it the way I did it, the way Drew did it, the way Tyler did it, the way you found it on the internet, just make sure that you're showing how valuable you are in some way, shape, or form. Don't just say, I wrote an application in Python. That doesn't tell you much about that person, right? Wrote an application that what? Did it influence anything? Was it an application like, yeah, can you just build this application and then no one uses it? What's the point of it, right? So make sure you put stuff that, you know, shows how valuable you are. Not just, you know, don't just list things down just to list things down.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. If you do have any questions, feel free to throw them in the general. And remember, next week is State Farm. So hope to see everyone there. All right.